Welcome to the Merlin Crypto Market Update located on the X app. I'm Abs, the host and senior engagement officer at Merlin, and today's episode features a replay from our Merlin X Spaces. Every other Tuesday at 8:30 p.m., you can catch us live on the X app at Get Merlin Crypto. We dive into captivating discussions about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology with our engaged audience, special guests, and the founders of Merlin. Please note, these spaces can sometimes experience technical hiccups and end suddenly. It's all part of the experience. Thanks for tuning into the Crypto Market Update, proudly brought to you by Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto.
Welcome everyone to Merlin Twitter Spaces with your host Abs. My name's Jeremy Quintanilla from Age of Jeremy, one of the co-founders of Merlin. We will be starting shortly. I will be kicking it over to Abs. We'll just give it a few minutes to get some people to join the space. But again, if you don't know who Abs is from the Good Morning Crypto Show, and he is also the Merlin Senior Engagement Specialist. You can watch Abs every Monday through Friday on the Good Morning Crypto Show at the 3T Warrior Academy YouTube channel. Today we have a special guest, Miss Jenna X. You can subscribe to Jenna's YouTube channel at Jenna X Media, as well as follow her on Twitter at Jenna X Crypto. We will be starting shortly, again, getting some time for some people to come up onto the space. And again, we will be doing a space that's going to be talking about a specific topic with our special guest, Jenna. But please stay on, because towards the end, we will open it up for conversation where you can share your thoughts and you can ask your questions. If you have not signed up for the Merlin wait, please head on over to merlincrypto.com. Join our amazing waitlist. We will be getting a link up here in the spaces shortly. And again, my name is Jeremy Quintanilla. You can follow me at Age of Jeremy on all social media platforms, even the brand new Threads if you would like. And you can also check Merlin out on Threads at Merlin_crypto. And again, here's some music, and we will be starting in a few short minutes. All right, everyone, just a few more moments. If you're just jumping on, this is a Merlin Twitter Spaces. We'll be talking about FEDNOW, U.S. internal payments upgrade. Your host is going to be Abs from the Good Morning Crypto Show. He's also the Merlin Senior Engagement Specialist. You can watch Abs every Monday through Friday on the Good Morning Crypto Show at the 3T Warrior Academy YouTube channel. We are just waiting for some more people to jump onto the space, and we will be starting in a few short minutes. Again, today's special guest is the beautiful, amazing Miss Jenna X. You can subscribe to Jenna's YouTube channel at Jenna X Media, as well as follow her on Twitter at Jenna X Crypto. And if you haven't joined the Merlin waitlist, the Merlin is the smartest way to track your crypto. Head on over to merlincrypto.com, and you can go ahead and sign up for the waitlist. And as always, make sure that you like and subscribe us here on Twitter and share this space so we can get more people involved. If you're new to our spaces, we will be having a discussion again with the beautiful Miss Jenna X and Abs and some of our other members of the Merlin team. But towards the end of it, please make sure that you stay on because we will open up the floodgate for you to come in and share your thoughts. Please be respectful. And you can also ask your questions at that time. So please make sure that you stay on until the end. And again, we will be starting in one more moment. All right, everyone, we will get started. Abs, how are you doing today? Can you hear me?
Awesome, guys. How you doing? Jeremy, how's my audio?
Your audio is fantastic. It is all yours, sir. Have a great Twitter Spaces.
Awesome, guys. I'm excited about tonight's event, and I've definitely prepared a lot. We're going to be talking about the Federal Reserve and the impact of FEDNOW payments, but we're also going to be talking about BlackRock's ETF and how BlackRock already owns Bitcoin. So that's some pretty exciting news. But before we get into that, Jen, I'd love to hear how you're feeling, and then we'll go around with the rest of the people in the group.
Hey, Abs. Hey, everybody. Johnny, Jeremy, Gonzo, Jackie, everybody's hanging out. I'm feeling fabulous. It's a fun day. Get to hang out with you guys on the weekend, even better. And super excited about these topics that we have tonight.
Excited to have you. And Johnny, we're going to test out your audio here. This is a hit or miss. How you feeling, my friend? Thanks for being here.
Well, good evening, everybody. It is a Sunday. Happy Sunday to everybody. Abs, can you hear me, buddy?
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. You know, weekend's coming to an end. It was a nice hot weekend. Hopefully, well, on the East Coast anyway, hopefully everybody enjoyed it and had a good time. There was a lot of exciting and hot news happening in the crypto space. And that was actually, believe it or not, this BlackRock has got some people excited. Even some family members are asking me about it this weekend. So we'll have to hop into that later.
The sheeple have been activated, Johnny Crypto, and we're going to Gonzo next. Gonzo, how you feeling, bro? Thanks for making time for us.
Hey, Abs, before you do that, let me just say a shout out to Jenna. Thank you for being our special guest tonight, and to all the brothers and sisters here tonight, Mario, Gonzo, Jackie, you, and of course, Jeremy. So thank you guys all for participating. Love you guys, and appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Johnny Crypto, for making time for us. And Gonzo, how you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good, Abs. Thanks for having me. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. So yeah, man, it's been a good weekend.
Hey, Gonzo.
Can you hear me?
I think we might be having connection issues.
Oh.
Jeremy, can you confirm that for me?
Can you hear me?
No, I can hear Gonzo loud and clear.
Okay.
Maybe let's test with Jackie real quick. Jackie, can you speak to see if Abs can hear you?
Can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you.
Yep, I can hear
I
Jackie.
can
I'm
hear
just having
Gonzo.
issues with Gonzo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think we
go
can
ahead,
hear
Gonzo, and then
Gonzo. So,
Give me
hey,
a thumbs
Gonzo,
up
can
when
you?
you're done speaking.
Do you think you can jump out and come back
Yep.
in and see if? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you.
I'll be back.
Awesome. We got Mario up here too. Mario, I'd love to give you a chance to introduce yourself, and then we'll roll into our articles.
And I know that Mario, the Node Defender, having a few connection issues, so I'm not 100% sure.
Rocky
So,
start.
Jack,
I apologize,
so
guys.
looks like Gonzo's back. Let me grab him up here and invite him to speak,
Okay.
and see if his connection issues are a little bit better. And then if not, let's see, Jackie, can you still hear? Can you test as well?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Gonzo, can you speak? See if we can see if
Yeah,
Abs can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear Gonzo. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, no, man, it's been a great weekend. Just been spending time with family. So like in between, just kind of working on my Merlin beta testing. And I swear, man, every time I log on, it just makes it's just more and more amazing, like the things that I find and that I see. So just super excited for everyone else to kind of get their hands on it and start testing it out.
Really exciting. And Jackie, how you feeling tonight? Thanks for being here.
Heck yeah, guys. I'm feeling awesome. I just got back from camping this weekend, so that was fun. But good to be back with my team, get ready in the mode for this week. I am super excited. Also got the meet and greet coming for 3T Warrior Academy, but Merlin is going to be huge, so super, super excited for that.
Awesome. And to just get us started tonight, Johnny, I want to ask you a quick question. So somebody calculated the rate of true inflation since they launched the U.S. dollar. So what do you think the U.S. dollar is worth today as opposed to when it was launched back in 1913? Well, I guess Johnny's not here. So Gonzo, why don't you give me a guess and then I'll give you the answer.
Babs, can you hear me? Okay. So we know that the U.S. dollar compared to gold back in 1913, it was $20, and now we know that gold is 2,000. So that is a 100x inflation rate. So 1,000%. So that's what So it's going to be somewhere around that range over the 100-year period. But I'm curious to hear. So on average, that would be that's 100% a year. What'd you find out?
No, it was 30%. So the average dollar right now, if you were going to have it $1 in value back in the 1930s, that would be equal to having $33 today. So the purchasing power of $1 is $33, and we can attribute that to assets. But something that I found really interesting this weekend is BlackRock's going to be launching their ETF. Jeremy, can you mute Johnny for me? BlackRock is going to be launching their Bitcoin ETF, and what was really interesting, and I don't think anybody caught this during the Fox Business interview, was Larry Fink said he didn't own any Bitcoin. He only owned shares of BlackRock. Well, who owns MicroStrategies? That would be BlackRock. So what does that mean? BlackRock already owns 8% of the 140,000 Bitcoin that MicroStrategies owns, which is pretty wild. So they already have some exposure to the market. But Johnny, last question I have for you is, what was your family saying about the BlackRock ETF before we talk about it?
Well, it's interesting because they've always been skeptical about Bitcoin in general, and whether it's going to be real, is cryptocurrency going to be real? But a few of them kind of know about BlackRock. So when they had heard that BlackRock was actually pushing forward for an ETF, they're like, yeah, there's no doubt about it, they're going to get it. And so now all the talk was around asking me how they can get exposure to Bitcoin, without even buying Bitcoin. There's stocks you can buy, and there's other things you can do to get exposure to Bitcoin. But you want to do all those things before the ETF gets done. Because once the ETF gets approved, first of all, you saw a little bit of a pump, 25 to 30,000 on the news. But the reality is, I think when the actual approval comes, but then after that, the road has been set. The stage is set for the floodgates to open up and the money to flow into the space. And so, you may get a pump and dump, and then you start to see, or you may just see a skyrocket of BTC. I don't know which way it's going to go. I just feel that it's going to be over six figures in a year and a half from now, if the ETF gets approved before the next bull run. You're going to have that catalyst plus an ETF approval. Oh man, I think it's going to be big bullish signs for Bitcoin.
Yeah, but can I add on to that?
Please.
What if it's one of those things where they trigger the bull run with it, people start dumping, because you figure if MicroStrategy dumps, like they're taking profit anywhere, I think it's after $28,000. So maybe they could just dump however much and bring it back down to like $2,000, $6,000 levels and play that game. You know what I mean?
They certainly can, Jenna. The manipulation can be there, but my guess is they see way more upside potential versus downside potential. And I'm just saying that because there's a ton of money sitting on the sideline. 1%, 2%, 3% basis points of all these large institutions that have already said, we'll put our money in there when the SEC approves this. To me, that's going to be a lot of cash supply chasing a limited demand. A lot of demand chasing a limited supply of 21 million coins. So to me, I personally don't see it going down before we get. I don't see how it's not possible that we don't hit six figures in the next run. That's just.
And Gonzo, I want to hear your opinion as well, but there's something else that's important here. Coinbase has been chosen by BlackRock to be their surveillance partner and spot ETF. Actually, I'm not sure if they're going to be the custody service, but they're going to be the ones supplying the price that BlackRock is buying at. So what's very interesting is Coinbase is being sued by the SEC right now. Could we see a situation where BlackRock is supporting Coinbase in a lawsuit against the SEC? Give me your take, and then I'd love to move on.
I hate to be like the negative Nelly or like the realist in the group, but so I started doing a lot of research on ETFs because I just kind of wanted to see okay, can we see an influx of money? What does it really mean if it gets approved? And from what I found in the research that I've done, they've named Coinbase. There's still a lot of ways to go when it comes to the final approval, right? Some of these applications just kind of vaguely named Coinbase, but they haven't set up the actual structure of it, and the SEC is going to want to see that. And so to me, it kind of feels kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of things. I think it's a little bit further for us to see the influx of money. And overall, I think it's bullish for the space, but I don't think it is what people think it is. Like all of a sudden, we're going to see tons of money pouring in. You also have like that not everyone is interested in it, right? Because these financial advisors and stuff, they still have to answer to somebody, right? And a lot of this money has to do with like the baby boomers and people that are kind of not really comfortable with technology, especially when you think about the narratives that have been pushed out about Bitcoin and that it's, you know, for terrorists and it's for laundering money. Those narratives are gonna take some time to kind of like push against those narratives and get people very comfortable. So while I do think that you know, we're going to see some people that are going to want to buy in on this, right? Because it is a safer way to invest, right? When you hear Larry Fink talking about optimizing investments, you know, you don't have to worry about a seed phrase, you don't have to losing your keys and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't think it just kind of feels very kind of buy the rumor, sell the news, because it's a little bit further along. There's a lot of things that kind of have to happen, and there's that narrative that they have to against, because not all these financial advisors, it's going to be like gold, right? When we talk about like a gold ETF and how all of them started pushing it, I don't think all of them are going to start pushing it, or all their customers are not going to want to get involved. That's just my opinion.
Gonzo, let me ask you a quick follow-up here. So I think it's a fair criticism to say it's too early to speculate on whether Block would join Coinbase, but Fidelity has actually refiled their application, and they put Coinbase as their surveillance partner. So, like, that's official. So let me ask like a more broad question, I guess. Do you think we'll see any of those big top 10 companies, BlackRock, Fidelity, not JP Morgan, obviously, but we can name a couple others, that will come out in support of Coinbase because they want this ETF, because they do want to make money? Like you said, when they launched the gold ETF, gold went from 400 to 2,000. We could see something similar with Bitcoin. We go from 30 grand to maybe $90,000. That's so much money to be made for these institutions. What do you think?
Well, like I was saying, so I'm not an ETF expert. So I started doing research over the weekend, and guys that were ETF experts were just talking about the application process, and that while they named Coinbase, you still need more, right? There's a lot of kind of fine details that needs to go into the application and questions to be answered, more than just saying, okay, Coinbase is gonna be the custodian of our surveillance shares, right? So I think there's more time there, but I think that's a good question, Abs. But you would think if these guys are going to support Coinbase, or Coinbase is going to the custodian of their surveillance shares, and they need this to get the ETF approved. I mean, it seems like in itself right there, that seems like an amicus brief, right? Like that is a use case right there for Coinbase. So I wouldn't be surprised if these guys come out in support of Coinbase, which helps them in the SEC lawsuit.
Really interesting. Johnny or Jenna, do you guys have any comments there?
I went down the rabbit hole of FEDNOW. Are we at that part yet?
We can be, honestly. We can move on from the BlackRock ETF if you'd like to go there.
I just went down the lawsuit, but go ahead. Anybody who wants to speak on the ETF? Sorry, guys. I'm down another rabbit hole.
Before we go down Jenna's rabbit hole there, I would say, Abs, there ain't no way in the world they are setting up an ETF to not pump the shit out of it. I just don't. I'm not convinced that we're not going to see all-time highs of Bitcoin in the next few years after this ETF happens. There's no way that BlackRock is buying, everybody's setting this thing up just to see it go back to 60K. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but look at how the elites operate there. And here's the thing. You know, when you look at the last bull run, we had $2 trillion because the printing presses were running. $2 trillion flew into this when you had $6 trillion being printed. You don't have any money being printed right now. So what's going to be the catalyst to drive Bitcoin? It ain't going to be the printing presses, but it certainly as hell can be the approval of the BTC ETF.
Johnny,
because that's going to allow that money to come in.
Johnny, I think you said the keywords. The keyword is the next bull run, right? And
Yes.
I think it's the next bull run. I think that like when you see price movement today, I think people are expecting like this thing's going to happen right now, and it still needs time. And I think the key words in that is the next bull run.
I agree with you, Gonzo. Yeah, it's not, it's like you said, it's going to take time to get, but these guys will set everything up so that the timing is right, where it's amazing how the narratives always tend to be, hitting at the right time when the price is pumping. And so you guys know how the game is played. You know what they're setting up.
Here's what's really cool. All of these financial accounts, and I'm sure that Jeremy knows this better than I do, they're given a list of companies. Let's say you work as a brokerage account. You're given a list of 75 companies off the bat, and you say, okay, this is where you can invest. If you want to go crazy, you can invest in some of the more speculative companies on this list, but you got to stay within these 25. There's definitely going to be a day where Bitcoin is added to that list, or their small basket of cryptocurrencies. And that's what I think the hugest is going to be. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, so I can add to that. That's pretty much how most of it'll work. There has been a lot of regulation over the last couple. Well, I've been out of banking for about a year now, 2 years. But essentially over the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a lot of different fiduciary responsibility laws that have put into place when it comes to whether or not advisor or what and how advisors provide the information. But for the most part, that's essentially how it does. Or a lot of advisors will end up partnering with someone. So let's say if it is Black, right? So if you're an advisor and you're partnering with BlackRock products, right? And sometimes those products will have different benefits to the financial advisor if they sell them. You will see that ETF show up in those places, especially if the ETF gets added to something like iShares, right? And so if that ETF is added to iShares, then it's going to be within everybody's advising, resources, and it will be right there. And they will be adding those other types of cryptocurrencies that are a part of that ETF. In this case, if it's just Bitcoin, inside of that bucket that they offer to their clients.
And it's interesting because we focus so much on the American markets. Canada and Europe are doing the exact same thing right now. They're trying to attract large investors into Bitcoin ETFs, but they're having the same issue. There's not clear regulation on how to launch this thing and who's going to custody. So it is what Gonzo said. We're 2 years away, but I think the catalyst has begun. I think we got that information now, and 2 years from now, we're going to look back on this summer and say this is when it began.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for Jeremy. Since he came from the financial institution, background, the ETFs, when they come out, do you know if those will be available to 401k plans? So like the regular Joe the plumber and Mike the electrician, will they be able to just go and invest a portion of their 401k into it, or is it only going to be special?
So usually with
How's that work?
So usually with 401ks, there's other regulations that are what they can offer inside of a 401k plan. And again, my main experience with it, because I wasn't in. So the last couple of years that I was in banking, what I specifically did was help businesses with loans and operation efficiencies. And so it wasn't specifically with securities, and I don't have any licensing currently as a financial advisor, such as a Series 65, or a like Series 7. But essentially, from the experience that I've had with 401ks, they're usually pretty basic structured things. Like it'll be like you could have a target date fund. And what's in that target date fund, maybe there could be an ETF in it, depending. Or you would have something like you would just pick large cap, small cap, mid cap, right? Or foreign, or treasury, right? You don't usually have the ability to pick things. And again, not financial, not coming from a financial advice, but that's why me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the 401ks, because you can't specify exactly what you want. And so traditionally what that ends up doing is over an entire portfolio, you're never going to outdo what you could have done if you did, say, a regular S&P 500 index, because that's specifically just what it's designed to do. So to answer your question, Johnny, from my experience, no, you're not going to be able to do that, but that doesn't mean that ETF won't show up in some type of portfolio to help create other type of diversification inside of it.
Okay, so it's primarily at the mercy of, let's say, Vanguard or Fidelity, where they could, let's say, offer, for example, a precious metals fund or exposure to people in the 401k, and they can pick that program. So if they were to, let's say, offer a cryptocurrency exposure, fund, then that would be the only way.
And it would have to be, from my understanding, it would be regulated, at least in the United States. So the United States would have to allow that to happen inside of the 401k, because it's designed to quote unquote protect the consumer.
Okay, so by the SEC giving ETF approval for the BTC to BTF, that's not good enough then, per se.
No.
Okay, that's very interesting. That's important to know. That there sounds like then there's another hurdle so the way to think about it then is when BlackRock gets this ETF approval, anybody who's just a normal retailer investor can go and buy the ETF, and any institution wants to buy an ETF, but the 401k plans cannot have access. Is that kind of, to sum it up, the way?
Yeah, that would be the base. That doesn't mean that they couldn't have access at some point in time, but traditionally that's not how 401ks are designed, because they have to be super risk adverse.
Okay.
because
And the reason
because
why
right. So when you got rid of the traditional pension plan, right, then the 401k is just a pension plan. So a 401k is a pension plan, and it's designed to reduce as much risk as possible, so that we can make sure that people that work their whole lives have something in return, I guess.
Yeah, okay. All right, that makes sense. The reason why I'm harping on 401ks is because we know there's a shit ton in 401ks, and that could drive it. That's another source of liquidity for this space. But I still believe that just the retail exposure to it, the retail, and more importantly, the institutional money that's going to flow in is going to be enough to drive Bitcoin coupled with the next halving to a higher
Well, so
level.
if regulation comes into this, and if regulation comes into the cryptocurrency market, it would not be, if that risk can be measured and calculated properly, right, from some type of institution inside of the United States, then it would not be unlikely that at some future point that you would see an option inside of 401ks that says like cryptocurrency. Right, because the way in which you usually pick inside of a 401k, it's just like the option, right? It's like large, like I was saying earlier, large cap, mid cap, blah blah blah. Right. At some point, you might, if it gets regulated properly, you might just see something that says cryptocurrency, and then you can have part of your portfolio that's in the 401k go into cryptocurrency or metaverse technologies or blockchain technologies.
Yeah,
But
that's
it would have to come from some other regulation than just this instance with BlackRock getting an ETF.
Gotcha. Yeah, to me, this BlackRock thing is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. All the things we just talked about, those are just, I think, the next sequential things that will happen over time that will just continue to add more and more bullish or catalysts providing liquidity into this space. So I just think I think there's so much upside. It's not even funny. But with that said, Abs, I think we kind of we beat this one up. But if anybody wants to talk about this, anybody else, please raise your hand or chat about it. Feel free, because I know it's the topic right now.
Yeah, and everybody, if you have questions, please make sure you can keep them till probably about another 15 minutes or so, and then we'll allow you to come up and we can open it up for space as we get through some of our conversation topics. Back to you, Abs.
Absolutely, guys. If you haven't already, check out the waitlist down below. You get access to our product 30 days, absolutely free. And we've already started beta testing, but our first access customers are directly in the waitlist. So there's just some more incentive for you guys to check it out. Last thing I do want to mention about this Bitcoin ETF, Jeremy, you talked about how they could soon offer something within a Vanguard. Wouldn't surprise me at all, because BlackRock actually owns MicroStrategies, if that company as a Bitcoin custody service began offered in a 401k before we see direct access to the currency. So just to close this out there, Jeremy, what do you think? Is that more likely?
No, and that's how I think that it would actually play out first. You would see something that ends up being in like major, like in this case, Vanguard, probably Vanguard, one of the major, I can't think of the word off the top of my head, but the managers of the 401ks, as they're able to create data and there's regulation, you would then see those types of things being introduced inside of a 401k. And that at that point in time, that's when cryptocurrencies would be as mainstream as you could get if they were in a 401k.
Absolutely, guys. And let's move on to our FedNow payment system topic, because this is what we're prepared for. So for anybody who doesn't know, what is FedNow? It's the first government-created system for financial institutions to send money between businesses. Ideally, this is going to make payments instant within the United States. From now on, we're going to bill to the bank. You're not going to plan 3 or 4 days in advance and plan business days ahead. With this FedNow system launch, no cryptocurrency involved, no new upgrade when it comes to digital assets. It's going to turn banking settlement instantaneous, and eventually, what I think is being set up is the rails for CBDCs. But Jenna, I know you did a lot of research, so I'm going to read through some topics. But before I do want to hear what's on your mind.
Abs, I'll raise my hand. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm used to Twitter Spaces and like not getting called on. So
Okay, it's all good.
I'll raise my hand.
Okay, that sounds good too, guys. So for anybody who doesn't know, what is FedNow? FedNow is going to be a payment system set up between banks and also financial institutions that'll set up 24/7 access payments. It would ideally make it so that when you get a paycheck, you don't wait until Friday. You can now start getting paid day by day, instant deposits into your bank account. And that in and of itself is really exciting. So far, they've got 50 of the largest institutions in America ready to use this product on July 20th. And the biggest deal here is it's only going to be for US dollars to begin with. Eventually, we could see a stablecoin incorporated, but we've also seen settlement means like XRP and XLM discussed. And I actually pinned a tweet at the top of this spaces. So I'm going to read something from this tweet, and then I'm going to kick it around the group. The FedNow Service Payment Partnership with Mental Block for quick fiat and stablecoin conversion marks the first major milestone in bridging the barrier between conventional banking and decentralized finance. Ripple is a prominent company in providing cross-border payments and an open source distributed ledger technology for financial transactions. This may be included among the fintech companies that FedNow will utilize. Additionally, Stellar Lumens, and they have XLM in parentheses, a blockchain-based payments network that offers quicker and cost-effective payment methods, could be used as a global means for settlement and might be among the companies that FedNow would use. That is directly from the Federal Reserve's website, and I read a lot there. So I guess we'll start with Gonzo. What do you think? Obviously, this is starting off with the US dollar, but do you believe the rails are being set up for digital assets here?
Yeah, I mean, from the research that I've done, Abs, I mean, I feel like we can eventually get there, but again, I don't want to be like the negative person today or the nerd, like the realist in the group, but it still seems like there's still kind of a ways away. It seems like initially when it rolls out, it's just going to be like within bank transfers, which is a big thing, right? So like if I want to transfer money between two different banks, that's usually passed unless you have Zelle. So it seems like that's how they're going to start it off, and then they're going to add layers. You still need people, you need these institutions to still kind of sign for it, right? And so it still could take a few years. Like if you watch Coach JV's video, he showed that video of that woman that used to work for the Fed, and she talked about this, where they're still a few years away. But like overall, I think it's a really, I guess, good thing, right? And I think those kind of things will come into play, but not right out of the gate, right? They're not going to go right into that, into anything that's related to blockchain or any kind of crypto. I think it's going to start with bank transfers, and then as more people sign up with the FedNow service to use it, and then they'll build those layers. And so that's just my opinion.
I completely agree. And that was kind of what I was trying to outline. Although we're years away from them using crypto, these are the products they have to develop in order to do so. And when you're talking about real-time payments, there's no better way than using cryptocurrency. You can't compare using traditional, what do they even call it? The script language, I can't remember, for the Swift system. You can't compare it. That's why it takes days to settle. But Jenna, I see you got your hand raised, so I'm going to kick it to you.
Yeah. I just think that FedNow is for people that don't know how to use crypto. That's like I mean, obviously, because if we know how to use crypto, why would we use it? But for like your older people, I'm just gonna say it, they want to go to the bank and send money and do these transfers easier. Of course, it is for large amounts of money and everything that people don't mind being tracked by the government. But for us in crypto, that's not why we're here, right? We're here for the complete opposite reason. Like, and this is why I can like XRP and like Bitcoin, because I want to be able to use, have different methods of where I can send my money, and I want to be able to control my money. But instead of going down that rabbit hole, which is why, it's a love-hate thing with XRP too, because you know that they're for the banks, but I think it's better to be, I like to be invested in the tech. But what was I? Oh, okay. Back to the Fed now. Yeah, people that don't know how to use crypto. And as far as the SEC case with this, I was trying to rack my brain around, like, why would they be suing them if FedNow is going to use Ripple? But I see everywhere that they're not, things that say they're a rival, and then we see different conflicting things that maybe they are. But my thought is that maybe the SEC didn't fully see all of this coming, and that Ripple, they didn't think maybe they would push it this far. And if Ripple didn't push it this far, then maybe they wouldn't have the chance to be the bridge. And you have to think like FedNow, that's the bank's way to make money off of this technology, right? But with them pushing it to this limit to get clarity, they had the chance to be that, Visa or American Express of Web3. And, I think XLM's right there too. But if they didn't do that, maybe they wouldn't be at that point, if that makes any sense.
It definitely does. And in this article right here, it talks about when they began this concept, Jenna, and it said the first time they worked on real-time payments at the Federal Reserve was during 2017, and they went out to the people in the private sector, which Ripple was one of them, and started these committees to discuss ideas. So it's very interesting. I'm wondering, with what you're saying, could we easily see a situation where Ripple and FedNow are competing for the same banks, and the SEC was activated to go after the competition? Are these three-letter agencies really protecting us, or are they working for larger finance institutions? We probably shouldn't talk about it on this space, so we won't. But Johnny, I want to get your thoughts. Is it fair to say that these are the rails for digital assets to be incorporated? Real-time payments can't be done in traditional fiat.
I didn't think today was Conspiracy Friday. We're on Sunday, right? Today's Sunday. No, you didn't need Billy for that conversation. No, Abs, at the end of the day, what you're seeing is the normal evolution of technology, implementation, and adoption. And so when something's new like this in the technology space, you don't always know what is the best technology, what's the what's the final one you're going to end up using? And so what happens is companies tend to bring in these technologies early on and they test them. And so I work for a Fortune 100 company. We do the same thing. We bring in companies that say, hey, we got a technology that can, make your product better or make you more superior. And so like, okay, let's form a partnership and we sign an agreement and we bring them in and we play with their technology and then we assess it. And then, if it's great, we do something. And if it's not, we cut them loose. And so that's what's happening. That's exactly what's going to happen here as well. But I think a lot of people don't understand how that works. So I think they say, hey, they partnered with somebody. Like, okay, if they partnered, that means they're going to be the rails. No, it doesn't mean that. It means they're considering them for the rails of a certain system, but you're really not going to know for until the systems are actually implemented and which ones they actually finally decide to go with. And so until then, it's all speculation. And that's what drives the markets, right? And we've seen it. And that's why you see the speculation curves tend to be higher in pricing than actual adoption curves in technology. So I think the Fed now is playing with it. They're moving towards the CBDC. They're looking at what technologies are going to be there. And, yes, Jenna's right. You hear all these things. Is Ripple part of that? Is Ripple against them? Are they competitors? The reality is, you know what? Nobody here knows. We're not going to know. So what's the next best thing? You kind of look at it, you assess the technology, you decide yourself as an investor if you think it's worth holding on, putting that horse in your stable, I like to say, and hold on to it for a few years and see how this race pans out. Because nobody has a crystal ball. None of us know who's going to win this race. But man, it would sure suck if you had that technology and you were holding on to it, and then you sold it, and 3 years later, it becomes the next Amazon. Because there will be some kind of new Amazons coming out of this next evolution of Web 3.0.
And we were discussing how 57 companies in the States are already uploaded onto the FedNow system, ready to launch on July 20th. Well, think about who Ripple's working with. Some of the biggest competitors on the market, it's American Express, Santander, SBI Holdings. I believe MoneyGram was announced, or at least they showed XRP on a patent earlier this year. So massive developments here. But Mario, I do want to kick it to you.
Hey guys, yeah. Happy Sunday. Happy to be here. I had some technical difficulties. I thought for a second Zuck was keeping me away from Twitter with that new Threads app, but I made it. Turns out it was just a Bluetooth connectivity issue. But hope you're all doing good. Has been an interesting week. This a lot of stuff happening this month. I think it's very interesting to see what's unraveling in the financial space, not just crypto. Super exciting times to be alive, definitely. I'm intrigued to see if we'll ever see anything related to the blockchain as far as like the Fed. I know that we know that the Fed's very hesitant when it comes to any kind of blockchain technology or even mentioning crypto. So let's see if I really don't think they will be able to accomplish this much easier if they don't end up going with some kind of blockchain technology, because to build an infrastructure from scratch is and the blockchain has the proven record to be a fairly good option. So. But yeah, I still have my doubt. I'm kind of like with Gonzo. I don't want to be like the Debbie Downer, but we have to wait and see for all these things to play out. But nonetheless, the clues are there. Like there's hints here and there. They do utilize some of these companies, Stellar, Ripple. They do use them as use cases, and they mention them in these documents, which it gets me excited. So, but yeah.
Question though, with that, Mario, aren't they using Metal? Decided that would be their blockchain.
Say that again, Jenna.
Abs, I think you posted something too within it.
You're right, Jenny. You are right. They are using the Metal blockchain.
Yeah.
So, oh, I didn't know that.
Why are we not having conversations about XPR, like about Proton, about Marshall Heener, about the Metal blockchain, Metallicus? Like, I feel like we need to do a deep dive, or even like get Marshall in one of these spaces, because he could probably, he would too. He would definitely hop in a space. So that would be really cool.
It would be really interesting when you talk about. So is that a public blockchain, Jenna? I'm not even sure. Is that 100% public, or is that proof of work? Can you explain a little bit?
What I can do is simply on Google, but I know it's like a layer 0, and you can do, I think it's a proof of work or proof of stake. Somebody has to pull this up. It's some kind of a consensus. If there's an XPR person, you can come on up here.
Well, that's interesting too, because they're denying that they're using blockchain, but then they've announced that they are using a blockchain. I didn't even really put that together because I was so focused on these Zelle payments. They were making the comparison between what they do and what Zelle and Venmo and some of those other networks do, and how they're actually not using blockchain but able to instant settle. Nothing about that seems true. That's pretty great point you made there, Jenna. Another correction I had for myself, I said that they first started discussing this in 2017. They actually began discussing it in 2013 and completed their first trial payment in 2015. So way before Ripple was sued by the SEC, the Federal Reserve's been working on this stuff. Pretty cool. Jenna, back to you.
Okay, Metal blockchain is a layer 0 blockchain that allows any chain to deploy and find consensus through the Snow protocols, allowing it to run highly efficient model of proof of stake, eliminating the need for proof of work.
There you have it. I'm not really sure what I can add on to it because I don't know too much about that blockchain, but I thought it was interesting. We can look more into that, guys. Does anybody else have comments here?
That's why you don't mess with our girl Jenna. See, she knows her shit.
100%, guys. Does anybody else have comments on this topic? I'm going to do a little bit more research while you talk.
I just DM'd the space to Marshall because he popped into another one that I was in. So fingers crossed he can come in, but it's the last minute. Don't know.
That would be very cool. Johnny, what are you thinking? What's on your mind? Should we keep the FEDNOW discussion going, or do you want to change topics here?
No, let's see what people want to talk about. Let's find out. I mean, we're here.
Going. It's 9:15 now. I'd love to bring people up for questions if possible.
Yeah, let's do that. I think we've opened it up and we talked about.
Oh, I see Jackie has her hand raised as well. Jackie, floor's yours.
Sorry, I was just doing a little research in the background, listening to you guys. And I hadn't heard of Metal blockchain, Jenna. So that's awesome. Good job on that. It says though that it's based on a fork of Avalanche's code, and so it's a DeFi product. I don't know if you know more about that, or what I guess what the difference would be there.
Girl, all I knew was the XRP army was really upset with XPR because they thought it was a knockoff of XRP. And when I even asked about it a couple times, they tried to kill me. So yeah, now I'm just finally actually looking at it again.
Okay, yeah, we'll do more research on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Jeremy, I see we got somebody up here for questions. So guys, I think there's about 47, 50 people in here. If you haven't signed up for the wait list, check out our wait list down below or in the pinned tweet above us. 30 days absolutely free. And we're choosing people from the wait list to start testing our product. So that's pretty exciting. Well, but I can see we have somebody called Made Coins up here. I'm going to give you the floor. Thanks for joining us.
Made Coins, you should be able to speak is now as well. If not, you can send another invite.
Bear with us here, guys. We're going to pull him up as a speaker.
Here?
Perfect. We can hear you.
Yes, it had cut off on me. No, I just had a question about the XRP, like with the lawsuit. Like, it seems like they keep postponing the date. Like, what is going on? Do anybody think that it will end eventually, like fourth quarter of this year or going into next year?
Absolutely. We talked to, we were lucky enough to talk to John Deaton. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he works on a lot of XRP content in this space. And what he told us is that on September 30th of this year, Judge Torres is going to have to report to Congress if she doesn't make a decision on this. And so there's a lot that goes into it, but the judges are incentivized to report to Congress because it looks like they're not doing their job if they can't make a ruling by that point. So what people are thinking is between now and September 30th, we should get some sort of an initial ruling from Judge Torres, but that doesn't mean it will be at the end of the lawsuit. It's most likely that Ripple or the SEC will appeal after that, from what I understand. Johnny or Jenna, anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much spot on. Right now, we know that Judge Torres has all the information she needs. The emails come out, and everybody's sitting patiently waiting for when is she going to make the final decision. But apparently, the outcome has a huge impact on the cryptocurrency, potentially on the cryptocurrency. So, and she has 409 other cases on her plate. So, the best guess is exactly what Abs just said. September 30th will be a key, interesting date to watch because if she doesn't want to go in front of Congress, then she'll make the decision before that day. So anytime between now and then, like when we're in September, if a decision hasn't been made, oh my God, I wouldn't be surprised at the excitement you're going to see around XRP because everybody's going to think, based on what John Dean said, that she's going to make a decision before the 30th. But as you've heard me say, Good Morning Crypto, I'm not so sure she's going to. I think personally, and I hope I'm wrong, but it won't surprise me if she decides to throw this back at Congress and says, hey guys, you know what? This is really it's your purview. You guys all know how our government works, right? Judges aren't supposed to make laws. Okay, they're supposed to rule on laws, but the laws are supposed to be created. And there's no, as you heard from the SEC, right from the him and emails, there aren't any real good laws and clarity around this technology. This technology was created in 1989, and it's being based off the Howey test that was ruled in 1943, I think. So we're using a ruling that happened 40 years before this technology was invented, and now we're trying to base it on that. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if she goes to Congress and says, hey, you know what? I didn't make a ruling on this because there's not enough clarity in the law. And you guys need to put some law and clarity around this so we can make a decision. Now, again, that's just my speculation. If she doesn't make the decision before the 30th, I would think that would be logic of why she would. But let's hope that ain't the case. But I don't know. That's just another way to think about it.
Thanks. That's a lot of good information you have. And who's Jenny X?
Hi, that's me.
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
A little bit sleepy and lazy today for a Sunday, so
Actually, me too.
I'm just trying to like get out of my comfort zone because I like to keep myself busy. So this is a lot of information. What about XLM and XDC?
Just like in general.
Yes.
So for XLM in particular, I think they're going to be used for mostly tokenizing assets. Whenever you hear people talk about XRP and XLM and the relationship they have to one another, they call them the brother and sister coin. I'm not sure if you know how XLM was founded. Do you know that? I can explain briefly.
Explain.
Yeah, so Jed McCaleb was actually working at Ripple back in 2014 with David Schwartz and Chris Larson, and they came up with the concept for creating XRP. They launched the token, and then there was an argument between Jed McCaleb, Chris Larson, and some girl he was dating, something along those lines. Jed McCaleb ends up leaving Ripple, and there was a $9 billion token settlement. So Jed McCaleb got 9 billion tokens from Ripple, and he was actually dumping those tokens onto the open market from 2017 all the way until the summer of 2022. So that was a huge narrative that was taking place in the market. I'm sorry, I forget your original question. What was it?
Oh no, it's just basically on XLM and XDC because from what I heard, is that they're part of XRP. I don't know how to explain it the right way, but someone had mentioned to me they're all related to each other.
Yes, they're all considered. So they are all considered like banker coins, is what I would say. XRP is basically used for instant payments between central bank digital currencies. That's what you're going to see in the future. Right now, there's already, I believe, 20 countries working on private blockchains with Ripple to develop CBDCs. But those CBDCs are not built on top of XRP. They're built on top of private chains on the XRPL, and you'll see the currency XRP used to communicate with one another. So for XRP, it's basically the communication between central bank digital currencies. With XLM, it's more used for tokenization of assets. They are using CBDCs in Ukraine on XLM, but when you talk about big companies partnering with Stellar, they usually do it to tokenize real estate, tokenize stocks, tokenize bonds, things of that nature. And then XDC is much more for banks to build out applications on. So if you're going to use smart contracts and you're a big bank, you're probably going to use XDC from what I understand. But Jackie, I see you got your hand up, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. That'll be it. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Oh. Sorry,
Yes, thank you.
I thought I had lowered my hand out because you nailed it. I was just gonna make a quick comment. He said they're usually in relation with each other, XRP, XLM, and XDC. You'll typically hear those a lot under the ISO 222 coins, and so those are typically spoken about a lot altogether because they are interconnected with the new infrastructure that's coming out. A lot of YouTubers and influencers will speak about those coins together. So I was just gonna make that comment.
Thank you, Jackie. And I see you got your hand raised, Jeremy, so floor is yours.
Yep, I just wanted to thank Made Coins, and I know that XRP Raven, we've brought you up to speak. If you have a question, please ask your question or any comments that you want to add to the discussion.
Sure, perfect timing. Just kind of leading off the last question in a way. Obviously, with my moniker, I know a little about XRP. But what I didn't know about until today, I was listening to a Alex Jones piece, actually Greg Reese with Infowars. He had a piece, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, talking about basically where the government's going in the near future with FEDNOW launching in July. And the fact that they've got a company they're working with that pretty much is going to be used to crush XRP and XLM, according to Greg Reese, out of the market because they don't want any private blockchains out there. They want it to all be centralized. So I did some research myself. The two names that were dropped were Tarot Pay and Metal Blockchain. And I guess that's what I'm asking you guys about, is if you know anything about those. Because I went to Tarot Pay's site, and while there's a lot of, I guess, money supposedly in this blockchain, there's no companies that are listed as being affiliated with them. But check this out, $1.3 trillion is supposedly the liquidity they have already ready to go with FEDNOW. So, and I'll go ahead and sit back down and let you guys answer if you got any answers for me. If not, it's a really interesting piece. Again, a Greg Reese piece from Infowars. I don't know how else to tell you to find it. I found an entire Alex Jones episode. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, guys.
That's really interesting. I have a quick question, quick
Sure.
follow-up for you. Did they actually talk about XRP and XLM in that episode? Were they referencing
They
those currencies?
specifically named XRP and X. Well, they specifically said Ripple and Stellar. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really interesting, Jeremy. I'm gonna give my 2 cents.
Yeah,
too.
I've got a note out to the XRP Army saying, "Yo, what's going on? How come I've never heard of this?" So far,
Here's
I haven't
something
heard
I
back.
would say before I kick it around the group is that XRP and what Ripple's doing is not confined within the United States.
True.
If they decide to launch a product that would be a monopoly in America, I don't think it would completely hinder what Ripple and XRP have done throughout the world. There's 130 countries that have met with Ripple privately, not working with them, but just to discuss CBDCs, and 20 of those countries are already building on them. So Digital Pound Foundation, we're going to see a lot of countries in the UAE launching this stuff. Even if the U.S. decides to monopolize payments, it won't shut down what's happening overseas. That's what I would say.
Well said.
But very interesting.
All right, cool. I'll let it go. Thanks.
And XRP Raven, please, if you
Thank
have
you
a
so
link
much.
to that, if you have a link to that article, we're all about the spreading of information so people can learn about things and make their decisions on what they want to think. But please, if you want to tweet that inside of this and keep that so people can find that through this Twitter Spaces, we would definitely appreciate that to spread any type of knowledge or communication.
I sure will. Thanks.
Yeah, no, and Abs, that's like the second or third time I've heard about the metal coin. I tried to look it up the other day, and I wasn't able to find it. I think Jenna mentioned it earlier. Is that a public coin?
Yes.
Jenna,
Yeah.
So I'm on their website right now. If you guys want to hear something pretty cool, and XRP Raven, I just want to say thank you. That was some great information and great question. The Metal blockchain is partnered, or they're building with NASDAQ, JP Morgan, Forbes, and Fortune are all working with this company. So I'm going to keep reading. I'll get back to you in 2 minutes here.
Yeah. So Jenna, you were saying have you looked into the metal coin yet, or that you said it was public and it's available? What's trading at? Do you know?
The one that I looked up was which is Proton, which I believe. Hang on 1 second. I actually see one of my friends down there. If Bullish Momentum can come up, that would be awesome. Raise your hand. If you
Yeah,
can, because he's
bring
big
Bullish up
XDR.
also.
But there's a metal coin, and there is XPR, which I thought was for that, like Proton running on the metal blockchain.
Jenna, can I jump in real quick? This is DGen.
Yes.
Okay, great. So Metallicus has a metal blockchain, which is much like Avalanche. It's a layer 0. And what that does is that allows these things called subnets to be added, right? And then inside of the subnet, you have other blockchains, right? So Metal, the Metallicus core, has a primary subchain, very similar to Avalanche. And what they did was they added a layer 1 called Proton in there, which is a fork of EOSIO. Because what they saw was in DeFi Summer that the C chain on Avalanche wasn't able to keep up with all the transactions going on. So they went ahead and added a payment processing blockchain, that is Proton, to the primary subnet to handle all of those payments, in addition to Web 2 integration, right? So they have the Proton blockchain, and then within the Proton blockchain, you have a Proton loan platform, which is very much like Aave. There's a bunch of proposals going on. We just got Metal put in the platform. The Litecoin proposal just passed as well. We've got XRP there, so if there's any XRP fans here, you may want to get some loan and go vote on that and try to get XRP added. But it's an over-collateralized lending platform. There's also streaming payments. We have an AMM in the ProtonDex.com. There's a phenomenal wallet that uses what's called a secure enclave inside of your cell phone. So it actually signs transactions in the cell phone and then pushes them, much like a Ledger Nano or a Treasure, any one of the hardware wallets. So they've really simplified everything for the users. There's no long key names. It's all at names. So it's like at Jenna X, for instance. If you were going to send her some tip money or something like that, some XPR, you'd send it to at Jenna X. Really good. They've integrated streaming payments recently. There's going to be invoicing, all sorts of good stuff. There's basically a stable coin called the XMD. And the idea is when all of these banks come on to Metal, which will have their own subnets, they'll have their own tokens, like, JWM coin or something like that. And they will all enter the XMD kit, which at that point you can kind of look at it as like a micro SDR. The US CBDC will be in there also. And it's just a huge decentralized ecosystem. It's not just for payments either. It's for, I mean, you can run Netflix on a subnet if you wanted to, right? You can run everything. There's, you see the CEO, Marshall Hayner, he's always pinging Elon Musk that, you know, Elon can bring Twitter to Metal if he wants, right? It's ready to go. So a lot of cool things. There's, like I was saying, there's an AMM, so there's liquidity pools, so you can earn yield there, and then there's also yield farms. Proton is a proof of stake blockchain right now. It's paying out 6%. It's got a 4% emission rate, and delegated proof of stake. Yep, that's correct. So lots of yield opportunities. And like I was saying earlier about the proposals, they just added a governance dashboard. So now if you hold any of these assets, you can put proposals out there. Like, I think there's probably 20 proposals on the Proton loan platform to bring XLM in, AVEX, Cardano. There's a lot of stuff over there, and you can check that out at protongov.com. So I guess, Bullish, you want to talk about like the Metal Pay real quick and how that integrates maybe? Because I think that's kind of most people's pathway in.
And can you guys too let us know how this correlates like with FedNow, like how they're working together? Because we saw an article with that. So if you know anything about that role, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, well, there was, you know, what could happen, because we don't work for Metallicus or anything, right? So we're just enthusiasts of the platform, right? What could happen is, you know, a banking ecosystem could find itself on a blockchain like Metal Blockchain, which would be private subnets, right? And then those banks or entities could then issue assets to other banks that are, you know, like commercial banks, like for instance, maybe like a Bank of America or something like that, right? Hypothetically. And then those banks would then make their way into the XMD. That's about all I really want to talk about as far as the FedNow side. Yeah, there was an article linking it. It didn't go into specifics on what it was doing, but if you kind of take a look at how Avalanche is structured, and then you kind of look at Metal in the same way, you can kind of see how a whole banking system could happen. I guess let me explain one more thing about the subnets real quick. That might help kind of tie things together. So each subnet is required to have 5 nodes. So that's 5 validators at a minimum, but can have up to, you know, an infinite amount of nodes, right? So let's just say you're a commercial bank and you've got like 25 different banking centers located around the country. Each one of those banking centers would have a node, so that subnet would have 25 nodes that make it up, right? Now, another banking institution would have the same setup. Maybe they have 50 nodes, right? So if you kind of look at that as kind of like how the Federal Reserve is set up with their different banks, I'm going to do like a quote unquote wink wink there, you know, like you could see something like that happen on something like Avalanche or even Metal, right?
Hey, what's going on,
Very
guys?
cool.
It's been a while. Merlin, Physical, Jenna, has been.
Good. Welcome up, Bullish. How are you? Thanks for popping up to speak about it. Do you have any more thoughts or input on the FedNow situation with XPR?
Yeah. First of all, I think DJen did a great job explaining it. It's a lot to unfold at first, and he pretty much did a good, quick blanket of the entire ecosystem because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of building. You can jump in, you can play with things. I know you guys want to know about the FedNow things specifically, but I can tell you right off the bat, no blockchain will be using FedNow for at least 2 to 3 years. We need regulations first. We're in the bottom of a bear market. You know, the banks are currently coming in, take over exchanges. We can see that with the SEC paving the way for them. They won't lose. Unfortunately, the SEC is not going to lose. You see every day a new bank saying they're coming in. So we got about 2-3 years more left of the bear market. They got to build. They got to build their exchanges, and then they got to build their DeFi. So what Metal is doing is, and I'm not saying that blockchain won't be part of FedNow in the future. We just need regulations first, and we need to get out of this bear cycle first. So it's going to be a while, but what Metal is going to provide for the FedNow is, so like DJen said, they're layer 0, they're a fork of Avalanche. So what they took it one step further than Avalanche, and during the last DeFi summer, during the height of the bull run, like DJen was saying, they had a problem on the C chain, which is their EVM chain. When we hit the height of the bull run, we got a lot of congestion. So the transactions started getting expensive. It was slowing down. So when Metallicus, they sat back and watched this. So they're like, interesting. We're going to take Proton, our layer 1, which is a fork of EOSIO. It's free transactions. The dApps on the network pay for the transaction, so that's how that works. But I digress on that. So they take this L1, they're going to make it the A chain. It's currently in testnet on Metal right now. So the reason why they're doing that is they're trying to solve the DeFi problem. Last year alone, there was 2 or 6 or whatever it was billion hacked alone from Bridge and Oracles. So by bringing in this layer 0 blockchain and putting Proton, a layer 1, on top of it to handle all the DeFi, now they have their Proton DEX, which is a regulated DEX. What does that mean? That means you need to KYC, AML on chain to be able to use any products built by Metallicus. They built the Proton DEX and they built the Proton Loan Protocol. So all that DeFi will now be on what's going to be called the A chain on Metal, which is just Proton. So now they solved the congestion problem, the transaction problems. It'll be free transactions in DeFi and no more congestion because A chain is going to be dedicated to DeFi. So
Hey,
there'll be
Bullish,
no
let me
problems there.
let me jump in real
They're
quick too for
putting
the
in a
audience.
walled garden for it.
Yeah, so to follow up on what he's saying, so we were talking about these subnets, right? So each one of these subnets, it's possible for them to have their own dexes as well, right? And everything can talk to each other without it clogging up any of the networks. So technically, you could have an infinite amount of TPS, and these blockchains settle. So right now they're running 4,000 TPS with a half a second block time. So just for comparison, like XDC is doing 2,000 TPS with 1.5 second block time, right? So so it's an infinitely scalable universe basically. And not only that, but Metal blockchain in and of itself, so everything that sits inside of it meets the BSA standards. So KYC, AML, everything's good to go. Everything's regulated. They can add requirements to the validators, KYC requirements, depending on if it's a CFTC regulated chain. Like it's really phenomenal. All right, back to you, Bullish.
Yeah, so I know Jenna she really wants to know about the connection with FEDNOW. So let me just paint the picture for you guys real quick. I promise you, Jenna, I will get to the point. I just need a little context first to draw a little picture for you guys. So solve the DeFi problem with A-Chain, right? So here's the vision. What the team at Metallicus is doing is now that they have Proton on the A-Chain on Metal's layer 0, they're going to banks and they're pitching to them, look, currently being tested by the retail, us, is our Proton DEX, our Proton Loan. Look how well it's working. There's no more bridges. There's no more oracles, blah, 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 right? So they're going to the banks and they're saying, look, we can build you your own layer 1 on Metal. And here's the example. Do you want us to give you a Proton? We could fork that for you. Do you want AVM? Do you want whatever you want? Whatever the bank wants, Metallicus is going to build it for them. But they're using Proton as the example. So like, look, you guys can have your own L1. You can have your own DEX. You can have your own type of loan protocol, however you want. White label it, put your name on it. We'll build it for you. Then you'll be behind a walled garden. You won't have to worry about any bridge hacks or oracles because the banks are watching everything. They've been watching for 13 plus years now, since Bitcoin's been out. They're watching everything. And trust me, last year alone, 8.2. The year before that was another couple billion. They're watching that, and it's all from bridges and oracles. So that's the reason why they brought in this layer 0. So to get the Fed point, so now they're pitching to banks. They got things going on. They are building things. They just haven't made it public yet. So they pitch that to banks, and where the FEDNOW comes in. Remember what I said. No blockchain is going to use FEDNOW until we're out of this bear cycle and we're finally into a client space where regulations is implemented. So once we get to that and the FEDNOW starts using blockchain, what Metal's going to be for is whether we have a regular CBDC or a wholesale CBDC. I'm leaning more towards a wholesale CBDC. I'll circle back to that. But let's say it's whatever type of CBDC, a wholesale or regular one. What the Fed is going to do is they're going to issue that liquidity to Metal blockchain to the banks that have built layer 1s on that chain. That's the connection right there, Jenna. So
Wow,
Okay,
guys. I just want to say
beautiful.
thank you to both of you for being here. Thank you to House of, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, so I don't
Yeah,
want to butcher
it's
it.
House of Illuvian. Thank you.
House of Illuvian. Thank you, guys. You guys are brilliant. I want to say thanks for making time for us tonight. I also want to say, guys, if you haven't checked out our products, 30 days absolutely free. Check it out. It's linked at the top of the description. Also, we're going to be choosing people from the wait list to beta test it this month. So very, very exciting. But I want to kick it back to the guys here. You're having a great conversation.
Abs, yeah,
Okay. Oh, sorry,
absolutely.
Johnny. Go ahead.
No, it's good. Thank you, Bullish, and the other man who spoke. You guys, that's fantastic information. When you guys, I'm curious your guys' thoughts. There's been a lot of discussion that XRP and XLM would be, the cross-border payment solutions for the banking system and CBDCs. And obviously we know that across country, XRP is being used for over 20 different countries or central banks, I should say, but not all of them and none of them in the U.S. So just curious your guys' thoughts on. Do you see, obviously nobody knows what these systems are going to be that are going to drive everything. Obviously you gave a great example of how metal or proton could play into that. Do you guys see XRP also being able to play in that, or do you think it's kind of obsolete and it really doesn't have much of a chance going forward with the new technologies that are coming out to be part of either the FEDNOW or the future CBDC systems?
Oh God, I don't want anyone to kill me or rip my head off, but
Nobody's going to kill you here, my man.
Tread very
Luckily, you
lightly,
can hide through the
friend.
fear.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
right.
Jenna knows I've been in the XRP community for a while. So is House of Illuvium. We're really tech oriented guys, and the tech just doesn't work. And what Ripple is doing
No, no.
compared to the XRP ledger, they're taking it private. They're forking the chain. They're doing their own thing, and coming back into the public ledger like that, like I just don't see it working. And then you have federated, side chains, bridges and oracles. What just happened the last DeFi summers? And now they want to make side chains with bridges. You got to lock XRP up on mainnet. Then you have to relaunch XRP on the side chain. So their IOUs on it's a mess when it comes to the tech wise. I don't want to, burden anyone with it that doesn't really understand it,
But
but
at the same point, Bullish, to add on to that though, and I understand what you're saying that okay, it's going to be another 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, until FedNow goes live. And I was looking at Metal, and that was founded in 2016. So obviously, they're going to want something like XRPL that has 10 years, like absolutely no downtime. I think that XPR might still be too new for that. You know what I mean? They would have to wait to utilize it. But my thought is same as with Johnny, like they would almost have to make something that talks to each other, right? They have to, because there's already central banks that are going to be using XRP and XLM. We already know that. So technically, they could use whatever they wanted. It wouldn't affect us for XRP or XLM holders.
right.
And they just need something that makes them all talk together, right?
Sure, but like I said, the banks are watching very, very closely. They don't make any moves. They're very conservative. They don't make any moves until proper regulations are in set are implemented. They are watching all the fuckery that's going on with tax. And where are they from? Bridges and Oracle. So do you really think a conservative bank is going to do anything on a side chain or anything that has to do with bridges and oracles? Like, really, honestly, do you think they will? 3.2 billion hacked alone last year.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's not just
I
that either. It's how do you have the citizens interact with the blockchain? So Metallicus has solved that problem also and integrated it. Like everything has to be connected at the end of the day, you know? Like for instance, right now you get paid every 2 weeks, right? Well, what happens when it turns out that you're going to be able to invoice your employer every block, every half second for the time that you work? Same thing with like streaming services like Netflix, right? No more like 2 week contract or monthly contracts. You know, it's like you pay for what you watch kind of thing, right? So all of that has to be integrated from Web 2 to Web 3. Web 2 is definitely not going to be deploying subnets anytime soon, right? So it all has to be
and they don't even have
interoperable.
contracts yet, man.
Right.
They don't even have an AMM. Here's my problem. It's off subject, but it's relevant. They're the first ones to create a DEX, okay? But no AMM, no liquidity pools. They route ODL through centralized exchanges. Binance and KuCoin are the number one and number two where they cash out ODL. Instead of routing it through their native DEX, they were the first ones to create a DEX. They should have pushed the XLS30D to get the AMM in place so that they route ODL through those public liquidity pools on the XRP ledger to give XRP value. But no, they don't do that. They shy away from that, and they go and they dump it on centralized exchanges. But by the way, Binance is going to go down. They're in the middle of a lawsuit. KuCoin's in a lawsuit with New York over Ethereum being a security. It's a fucking mess.
Binance is not going
Oh
down.
my
You're
God, are
right.
you that
Quit
naive, Jenna?
Jenna.
Let me,
Bets are
hey
coming
guys,
in to take over.
guys, let me ask you a question. Let me chime in here. So let's talk about this.
And I don't
So
mean to
we
be
know that.
controversial, Johnny. This is just my opinion.
No. I love it. I
Good.
love it. Please give me your honest opinion. This is freaking awesome, bro. Here's a question I have for you guys. So here's the deal. This is kind of what I've always felt. I've always felt that there's no way the big boys are going to let little guys, retail guys, play in this space in their world, right? And obviously, maybe XRP was the way to do that.
John,
Do you guys think the system that they adopt will be something all of us can invent in those rails?
John,
And if so, what do you think that would
Johnny,
be?
it's already here, man. It's already here. Proton is a DAO, right? So like I was
Okay.
talking about with those proposals in the introduction, right? So the holders of these assets vote on changes to the protocol, right? It's a completely decentralized system, right? There's going to be blockchain voting, right? I mean, not just like for Proton loan and stuff like that, but for like, like your local city council will be voted on the blockchain.
I just want to
Like governments are going to turn into DAOs, basically.
But doesn't that then wait? So answer that. Here's a question. So if that were the case, wouldn't that be taking away power from the Federal Reserve and central banks if they want to be able to, run cross-border payments and run the whole banking system? They're going to run on something that the public.
See, here's the thing, right? Is that Ripple has got everybody in blockchain screwed up with this on-demand liquidity and cross-border payments, right? So, like, think about this. So, Metal can, and they can all talk. And yeah, I know. I got a phone call. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
So, 1 sec. All right. Okay. So all of these subnets are able to talk to each other, right? So you can essentially have Metal. Let's just look at like North and South America, right? So say Metal extends from North and South America. Okay, so there's a cross border there, and it goes into Canada also, right? Everything can talk to each other. There's your cross border solution, right? But here's where it gets really cool. Like you can then jurisdictionally enforce what people are allowed to buy or not buy based on where they live, right? So if they live in Mexico, for instance, and they need to buy something from the U.S., but it's not regulated in Mexico, based on where you're at and which subnet you're in, then you're kind of like froze out of that asset, right? So it's no different than how it is today. It's just way more efficient. Instead of it taking 3 to 5 days to settle on the ACH here in America, it settles instantaneously in half a second for 0 fees. So everybody's screwed up with this Ripple thing, and back to the Interledger thing.
They're buzzwords.
Yeah, Interledger. So the way that the XRP ledger works, the side chains can't talk to each other without going back through the main ledger, which means that they had to use Interledger protocol, right? Sitting outside of everything. That is a hackable system then.
And Degen, their solution for the side chains to talk to each other, guess what? More bridges.
It's more bridges.
38D, which is more bridges. How many more bridges?
Yep. See, and that's the
Johnny,
thing.
I just wanted to let you know, like I do agree with you with the government's, how do I word this? Basically, they're coming in and they're going to create a lot of private chains and they're going to create their own chains. Countries are going to create their own chains. They're not going to adopt public chains, but certain public chains like Metal and some others will plug into these. A lot, like you said, I do agree with you. They are going to come in and create their own stuff, just like they're in sandboxes with Ripple and all these other companies. Not because they're partnering with them, because they're learning the tech so that they can go and build their own shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we know JP Morgan, like guys, JP Morgan is building their own coin, right? The Onyx. Okay. And you and I can't invest in that, right? And I don't.
If I were you, but here's the thing: if you go to the Metal,
Metallicus is talking to them about Onyx.
Go to Metal blockchain. Go to the Metal blockchain website. You're going to see JP Morgan listed on the front of it, right? So it's like, here's the thing: Metallicus has a product suite where they can deploy a private banking chain in a click of a button on Metal. Custom tailored.
You might be shilling too much. Hang on. I have to check. Yeah, I think you might be. Hang on.
Shilling? You guys brought us up. We were.
No. Listen,
Let me pull back, Jenna. My
apologies. You're dropping bombs. No, hang on here though, please, because you're dropping so much knowledge, and I appreciate you both so much. But I just want to throw it to Physical because he has hand up for a while, and I know his arm is getting heavy. So Josh, what's up, That's my homie.
Hey everybody. Yeah, I just thought that yeah, there was I think some guessing in conversation, although it sounded very convincing. I don't think it's, I think that there's new information. And that information is that FEDNOW, if you go right to their website, bottom right-hand side, I put a link in your chat, says that there's 105 partners. So providers, different things, some of them blockchains. There is many blockchains on there. You can go through and look at all 105 of them. We don't know what each of them are being used for, which are going to be used for what, if they're all just connected so that FedNow can tie into them. If some may be dropped off later until we see actual documentation. But I think that to say that Metallicus, because they've been one of the providers, represents all of the providers or the only provider, and that other providers won't be used at all, I think is a little bit extreme, given the evidence on the actual website of FedNow, unless you have some documentation
We never
I'm not
said,
seeing.
I never said that.
yeah, we never said that. Yeah,
I said they're one of the providers that will get the liquidity from the Fed, issue to Metal, and then whatever banks that built on Metal will get distributed that liquidity from the Fed. So that's the reason why Metal is partnered with them, so that when they do start using blockchain, if it's a wholesale CBDC or a regular CBDC or a stable coin, they're going to issue that to the Metal blockchain, which will then issue that to the banks that have built L1s on Metal's layer 0. That's what we.
because that's the thing. It's physical, right? Like right now, how many of these blockchains that are out there? How many of these L1s meet the BSA requirements? How many of them have on-chain KYC? Right? How many of them are going to meet these requirements that the Fed now is going to require for blockchains? The only way that a lot of them
there's 105 providers listed. Just go look at them.
Excuse me for a second. Let me finish. The only way that most of them are going to be able to become compliant is if they come on-chain on Metal. I'm just going to leave that as a mic drop.
Hey guys, they also have patents pending for the on-chain KYC and the DID, the human readable app names. And
I just want to say something real quickly. I've been loving this conversation. I think it's really beneficial to everybody right now. And I've actually known Bullish and House of Illuvian for not too long of a period of time, but I can tell you just for the short period of time that I have known them, these guys are some of the most knowledgeable people in the space. So you definitely want them to continue spitting game like they are. So I'm gonna drop the mic and bring it back to them because these guys are incredibly brilliant. Like they're geniuses. So yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, guys. And I do just want to say, please be nice. I appreciate these discussions. And Physical, I'd love to give you a chance to respond, but just keep it civil. And I do want to say I appreciate all of you being so enthusiastic about the debate. We do have some other people I'd like to get incorporated, but House and Bullish, and let's give Physical a chance to respond and kick it right back to you guys.
Okay, so it is interesting. I definitely have tried Metal, and it is they're obviously one of the providers. So in terms of the scope and scale of that partnership, I'm only speculating unless there's actual documentation. If there's actual documentation, I'd love to see it.
Physical,
Physical, right? Pardon me?
You said that you tried Metal. Did you try the Metal exchange or did you try the WebAuth wallet? Because that's another animal inside itself. They're turning your phone into a cold wallet by using.
Yeah, at Fidgetal is my address. At Fidgetal, I set up, created an NFT on there.
Oh, that's amazing, man. How do you like it? So you're using Proton? Are you using it pretty regularly, or are you? What's your experience so far?
Like, are you on Proton Loan?
Honestly, yeah, it was fast. It was super fast, absolutely super fast. It needs more exchanges to be able to get it. And the DEX, I could not get working, but I spent hours and hours waiting for it to work.
So what's going on with the DEX right now is that the internet isn't fast enough to keep up. So when you go to make a transaction on there, when it says open WebAuth wallet, sometimes you have to click the manual one and click manual sign, and then use the QR code reader from WebAuth wallet, and then you're fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to let Johnny know and Mr. Good Morning America, this wallet is going to change the game. Nobody is going to be walking around when mass adoption comes with a third-party wallet to go and pay for milk and eggs. Oh, hold on. Let me take out my ledger. Let me put in my code. Let me do the Bluetooth to my phone. Let me send the transaction. No. With the WebAuth wallet, the way it turns your phone into a cold wallet is there's a secure enclave in your phone. This was patented by Apple, but Android uses it too. Basically, what it does is it's like having a ledger built into your phone. So when you go to sign a transaction, it pushes it to secure enclave to sign the transaction off the internet, just like a ledger does, and then quickly pushes the transaction back.
But sir, what you're saying, I disagree because XRP was made for payments, and there's actually a Ripple Grant sponsored project that's called Free World, and they already have POS systems, and all you do is just take your little Zone wallet with your barcode and you scan it right on their thingy, and you pay for your stuff. So
Mm.
actually, it can be done. So what you're
But
saying is
We're
not
Jenna,
really
talking
true
Jenna,
because
about
like
the
I've seen it with my
same
own
thing.
eyes.
Every
I
crypto
have
is a
seen
payment
it.
blockchain. Every crypto can
David Schwartz
send
has seen
every
it.
crypto can send a transaction in 3 to 5 seconds, except for Ethereum or Bitcoin. Most of the new chains can do. These are buzz, sweetheart.
But you're no, it's not a
How is
it's
it
hold on,
not a
time
actual
out,
POS
buzzword?
time
Call
out,
it a
system.
payment
That
hold on,
blockchain.
you
hold
use.
on,
It's
time
not
out,
a
time out,
buzzword because it's
time out.
Every
real that
crypto
it can
is
be
an
done.
app.
But you're saying
Hold
these
on,
things cannot
Jenna,
be done, and they
Jenna,
can
you
be
Jenna,
done.
can't
It's
be
what it was
serious.
made to
Jenna, you
do.
can't be serious.
I am
hold on,
serious.
hold on, hold
Comparing
on. Wait,
Hexum to
she
WebAuthn.
Guys, we gotta talk one at
she
a
raises
time.
a
Or I'm
good
gonna start
question.
muting people.
Yeah, she raises a good question. So the difference between Zome and the WebAuth wallet, for instance, right, is that it's the on-off ramps, right? So where Zome's going into, it's not a KYC environment, right? So for instance, you may have, I don't know, maybe you like to shop at Jenna's Boutique, right? So Jenna's Boutique sells certain things, and Jenna's Boutique, in order to stay regulatory compliant, she's going to have to require the buyers to be KYC'd, right? So that means that every transaction where you're going to require KYC, that chain has to be
No, I
compliant.
don't.
No,
Why
this is
would I
a
have to require KYC? No,
this is where we're
listen,
going.
it's the same as
This is where
cash. I just have to claim it on my
no,
taxes.
I'm
I
saying
don't have.
you
That's the
own
whole
the
point of
you
crypto.
you own the shop, for instance, right? And you have people coming.
I own the shop and I have a great accountant who can track my crypto
Hmm.
wallet and all the transactions that are for my LLC. I just literally export the CSV. That is all you need to do. You're making this
No,
way
no,
too
no. This
complicated.
is
People can pay me in crypto right now and
okay.
don't
Well,
need to
let's use a different. Let's
KYC.
use it.
So
Say
what
you go to
happens when
Walgreens, for instance, right?
regulations come, though? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, everything's going to require KYC at the end of the day. That's what the regulations are gonna say. So what for a lot of things, right? So for instance, if another person owns a boutique shop and the products that they're selling require KYC, then you're going to have to be operating on a chain that meets those requirements and has a wallet that is KYC'd, right? So all of the addresses are KYC. They're validated. They're verified off chain with a third party provider. Okay, when you go to sign that transaction, they know that it's you, right? And then your transaction will be processed through. Zum XRP Ledger, they don't have that capability, and like unfortunately, they're going to end up like the XRP Ledger is going to end up. I'm saying this is in quotations. They're going to end up coming onto Metal in
You're
order to
saying
meet
this like you
requirements.
have a crystal ball. No, listen, you're acting like you have a crystal ball. Okay, like at the end of the day, it should be treated just like cash. And are you so what you're saying is how many years until all this KYC happens? At that point, will they get rid of cash
Well,
completely too?
let's
Because
look at it like
then
this.
only criminals will use
So let's
cash. They'll want to get rid of that so they can control everything. But that is the whole reason Bitcoin will exist. You can't tell me
well,
what payments I can and cannot
Well,
accept.
let's look at it this way. So the Proton loan platform and the Proton Dex, right? You have to be KYC'd in order to interact with those platforms. And that's not coming from Metallicus. That's a federal law. They are in compliance with federal law, right? And there's a lot of projects out there that are operating outside of federal law right now. Okay, those projects are the 99% that are going to go to zero, right? The only way at the end of the day that people are going to be able to do business if it's in compliance with federal law. So Metallicus has built a platform. This is why it's completely different than Avalanche, right? The Metal blockchain conforms to federal law.
Not to mention, we have money transmitting licenses in every state but 3. Not and just to throw another cherry on top, they just bought a bank to back this whole ecosystem up for regulations. Because what did I say in the beginning? The SEC is coming in and paving the way for the banks. It's clear as day. So Metallicus is ready for it in every way possible. Between the money transmitting licenses, that's millions of dollars to acquire per state.
Hey guys, let me chime in here. So I totally agree with you guys that KYC is going to be needed. There's no way in the world all this is going to work without KYC. So no argument there. The question I have for you is, you guys keep talking about. I just want to make sure we have a lot of people in the room. I want to make sure they understand what you're talking about. When you guys are referring to metal and Metallicus, are you talking about the coin symbol MTL, or can you give the symbol so everybody has?
Sure. So Metallicus, just like Ripple, is the company formed in like 2015, 2016.
Okay, and
Then
this.
they helped develop Proton, which is XPR. That's their layer 1. That will be going on Metal, which is Metal is the ticket. It's layer 0. It'll go on that as the A chain. Then they have Loan, LOAN, which is their loan protocol. Then they have MTL, which is like their DAO governance. I mean, what would you label that one, DGen? Like
Yeah.
their
So the thing is, they have another coin called the XMD, and the MTL or XMT token is the governance token. So what I mean by that is, if one of these banks, say JP Morgan, ends up coming on Metal and they want to get their JP Morgan coin added to the XMD basket, right? They have to put a proposal into the Metal DAO, right? Community, right? So that's 100 XMT that they have to pony up. And then if the community approves to have the JP Morgan coin added to the basket, then they need an additional 50,000 Metal DAO or MTL or XMT token, right? So that one has a supply of 66,588,000. Proton's currently sitting, I think it's at like 14 billion. Loan sitting at like 83, 85 billion, something like that. And then Metal, I believe, is somewhere between 333 million and 666 million. So those are the four assets. There's also decentralized merchant store similar to eBay and Amazon. It's in open beta. You can get the WebAuth wallet and check it out. That's called StoreX. So you'll be able to use any token. Yep. You'll be able to pay in Bitcoin. You'll be able to loan. You'll be able to pay in XPR. There's like 20 different assets on there. In addition to that, they tie into the loan platform. So at checkout, if you wanted to use $100 worth of Bitcoin as collateral, you could go ahead and do a decentralized loan right there on the fly in your WebAuth wallet for up to like, I think it's at 80% right now. So up to $80. This kind of leads into, can I segue into Bitcoin real quick? Do you guys mind?
Yeah,
please
before
do.
you do that, DGen, just I don't think they understand the XMD. So let me just tell Johnny real quick. So there's stablecoin XMD, and then you could just jump into that Bitcoin stuff.
Okay,
yeah, the XMD. So the way they're doing their stablecoin is, so all the fuckery that happened, excuse my French for the females in the room, that happened with the stable coins over the last couple of years, with the algorithmic ones and the depegging constantly, they decided to build XMD on Proton. And what it is a basket of stables. So right now, it's basically, like I said, remember, we're testing everything with a retail. They're pitching this to the banks. So right now, there's 3 stable coins in the basket. So if one of those stable coins depegs, they halt withdrawals on it, drain it from the basket, and it's business as usual because they have a basket of them. So they're not going to depeg. So the vision is when they go and they pitch building layer ones for banks, they say you can have a stable coin like XMD. Look, we're testing it out on the public. It's also the public's stable coin too on the Proton side. But so we'll build you your layer one, build you your own DEX, your own loan protocol, and then we'll build you an XMD stable coin. So these banks can have a basket of stable coins. Back to the Fed. Say we're 3-4 years in the future. Let's say the Fed is now issuing liquidity to Metal. And then Metal's issuing that liquidity to the banks that have built layer ones on the chain, right? Let's say it's, for shits and giggles, a wholesale CBDC. So how a wholesale CBDC works is the Fed is going to issue that wholesale CBDC to the state chartered banks. They're going to then take that wholesale CBDC, the liquidity, they're going to mint their own stable coin with inside the XMD basket. And then that stable coin will be for that state. That's how a wholesale CBDC would work if we went down that route.
I got a question for Bullish and House, if you guys don't mind. How much are you guys getting paid by Proton to show this project? Because you keep referring to it as we.
hey Bullish, let me answer that, right? So here's the thing, dude.
All day with this. Just go X them.
Yeah.
X Metallicus employee and see what they say. That's it.
They're legal.
No, well, I mean, I'm at, you keep,
just
no,
like
you
all
keep,
of you,
no,
chill, Ripple,
No,
and
hey, Bullish,
I don't,
mute
let me
it,
say,
mute it real quick.
I'm asking, you keep referring to it as we, you keep referring to it as we, so you're insinuating that you're building the project also.
Listen,
so I'm just asking how much you're getting paid to show the project.
Let me explain this.
That's all.
Explain this once and for all.
That's simple, bro.
Hold on. Let me explain this once and for all. Okay.
Same shit y'all do with Ripple
Bullish,
and
chill.
It's the same shit, though. I hate
No, it's really not. If you want to get all upset, that just answers my question. So thank you.
I answered it. Go ask one of the employees at Metallicus.
Chill.
No, I asked you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, listen.
I'd mute you all.
So listen. So
I'm letting it be right now, but guys, you got to be respectful. Living Legacy, you say your point, and then Bullish and House respond. If you guys have nothing to hide, you got nothing to hide.
Okay, so here's the thing. So number one, I work as an engineer. Okay, we're not employed by Metallicus, but there's a different construct here, because if you look at the way that the Proton DAO is set up, right, in the dashboard, when you are holders of these assets, right, you're technically managing members of an LLC, right? So at the end of the year, your name from the KYC, which is why they require KYC, is on that DAO as a managing member. Now we have a responsibility as token holders to manage the DAO with proposals. We have a vested responsibility to the growth of the ecosystem, right? So when we say what ends up happening, for instance, I can put a proposal in tomorrow and say, hey, instead of getting 100 million loan distribution, I think we should have 50 million loan distribution, right? So I can put that proposal in, and if the community votes on that proposal and it meets quorum, then what ends up happening is the Metallicus company, the core developers, will go ahead and spend the resources, spend the money to implement that on the blockchain. That's how this whole thing works. They're called a core developer. See, if you're coming from Ripple XRP, you're not used to that scenario, right? Because Ripple has UNLs, they have their own validators, they don't make anything off of them. If you're not an enterprise and you've got a validator, you're a fucking retard, okay? There's no monetary incentive, and there's no community incentive on it either, right? It's a different story with delegated proof of stake and DAOs. All of us that are
Wait,
in
are
it,
you talking about? I'm sorry, hold up. Hold on about running a validator node on the XRP
yeah,
app?
there's zero incentive to run a
Yeah, well,
validator.
you know why that's done is to keep people honest, right? And people who have a project on the XRPL and things like that, that's their way of contributing back to the ecosystem and saying thank you for letting me build
Yeah,
on the
but Jenna, the
XRPL.
problem is that there's 35 unique UNLs, right? So only the 35 are the ones that matter. So if you're in UNL and you're not building a project, then what and what are you doing there? If you're not an enterprise and you're not building a project, then why would you care? All of the other validators don't get a vote. So however many else there are outside of the 35, they don't matter. They don't vote. So if you're building a project, all you're doing is securing the network. Whereas when you move over to a delegated proof of stake model, there's actual incentive. It's just like the way the economy and the Federal Reserve works right now, right? They expand the money supply and they contract it. That's why proof of stake, delegated proof of stake, is in existence right now. You have to be able to. You can't hard cap your assets.
True decentralization.
Yeah.
You actually get a freaking.
And now, so here's the thing. So we have validated a lot of the people in our community are already metal blockchain validators. I'm going to be spooling up some pretty quick. Some of them are Proton validators. They have a top 21 list also, but everybody gets a say. Everybody votes in delegated proof of stake. And then right now, the way it's set up, as long as you hold these assets, you get a vote. I've got there's proposals in right now to change that to you must be staked, which would allude that you have an interest in the ecosystem in order to vote, and it will incentivize people to stake because it will incentivize people to manage the ecosystem. We don't want somebody coming in and putting a proposal together and it completely screwing up the economics of the chain, right? So it's a checks and balances system.
But so if you don't mind me stepping in, that completely contradicts what you just was saying about it being decentralized, and any token holder that has a vested interest in the project should have a say in the project. Well, but then you just counter corrected it and said that not anybody should be able to come in, put forth a proposal, and that proposal affect the chain in a negative way.
Okay, so I see your point, but let me explain. So I'm paralleling it with, or I'm contradicting it with Ripple, right? So in the UNL, someone can put a proposal together, and then all the UNLs vote on it, and none of the community members. If you're an XRP holder, your vote doesn't matter. You don't have a vote, basically, right? Here, if someone puts a proposal together and the majority of the community doesn't approve of it, we're going to vote against it. And there's nothing that the core developer is going to do, right, in order to stop that vote from going through.
Well, so my point is the title of this chat says FEDNOW, International Payment Upgrade. Yep. I think I speak for everybody in this room with saying that we could suggest what we think is best, but we don't work for the Fed, nor do we work for monetary supply, nor do we understand the implications of anything that we would choose to change about such a high level payment system that controls the largest nation in the world.
Maybe somebody here does work for the Fed. I'm not saying it's me, but maybe somebody is. Maybe there is somebody here that.
That could very well be true, but I highly doubt that out of the 90 people in this group, in this small channel, that they do.
Listen, we were invited up. We weren't in the space. They asked us to come up. And the first thing that I said was, I'm being honest with them. No, the Fed not going to use blockchain for at least 2-3 years till we get out of this bear cycle and we get regulations. That was the first thing I said.
but I could also counter argue that and say definitively you don't know that.
That's fine.
That's your
That's
speculation.
fine. So go fact check me. Go to Metallicus and
But the
ask
point
them
that I'm
straight up.
making is that
Do I
you
get
guys
paid?
come in here with your high level speculation, just like the rest of the people in this room, except you're steering the conversation towards your vested interest.
No,
So that's
No,
why I
Legacy,
asked
let's
the
keep it
question that I
listen.
asked.
respectful, son.
No, no,
I've been
we're
respectful.
exploring
I've been
We
all
were
respectful.
options,
invited up to
guys.
yeah.
speak about this topic.
What's
We
your
weren't
name?
even
Livingless?
we
Is
got
that
DMs.
is your name Livingless? Is that
No.
It's living
Oh, Living
legacy.
Legacy. Sorry about that, man. So all we're really saying is that look, in order for the FedNow to go through, right? In order for the FedNow to get implemented in the United States, for instance, right? Which is probably going to be a global thing at the end of the day, right? But for right now, we'll just focus on the U.S., right? In order for it to get implemented, if you're looking at what blockchains it might get implemented into, we're saying you really want to be looking at the BSA, KYC, AML compliant chains. Okay. And if you're looking and you're in a chain that doesn't meet that, then would probably need to take a look at, are they interested in meeting that? Or are they going to be migrating to a different chain that meets that? That's all we're saying. Those are the requirements that are
House of Illuvian, one of the questions I do have is, so I got two follow-ups for you. The first one is, I know this conversation has been mostly about inside of our borders, but what do you think the role is for decentralized currencies outside of America? Answer that, and then I have a follow-up.
Well, that's why we're seeing the XMD basket, right? Because XMD basket is cross borders. So, for instance, Metallicus also has the equivalent of money transmitter licenses over in Europe, right? So, technically, if they have banks there, right, they can enter the XMD as well and bypass all of the ISO 222 crap, right? So, it kind of eliminates the SWIFT system at that point, right? So, there's a possibility. I mean, it's wherever there's banks, this whole ecosystem is built for banks. It's the only one.
Illuvian, sorry, I had to put everyone on mute for a second. We're getting a vicious echo. Please take the floor again.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, sir. It's the only one. If you really take a look at all of them, like I look, I was an XRP maxi man, and I was wrapped up in the wholesale CBDC and the ODL, but really the value proposition that I had for XRP was in the tokenization platform, because honestly, cross-border payments. I mean, I could do the math for you and tell you exactly what XRP would have to be in order to move 20 trillion a day. It's not much, right? But where you start getting into extreme value is if everything gets tokenized and everything gets paired against XRP in an AMM, right? The fact of the matter is the XRP ledger is not able to do that in its current state, right? So then you start looking for, well, what is capable of doing that? Not only that, it doesn't have upgradable smart contracts, right? So you would think if you're going to...
So the question, this is perfect
Yeah.
because you're answering my follow-up right now. How many of these blockchains, don't you think the KYC argument is one that's ongoing? Like part of this whole discussion is that these chains are KYC compliant and there's only a certain number of those and this one has these specific advantages. But don't you think that conversation is still happening as we speak, and in 2025 we're going to have a different set of rules and blockchains will adapt?
Well, I think that there's a lot of information out there. We were talking about Binance earlier. We were talking about all these different exchanges. You know, when these exchanges fall, all of that liquidity is going to move into regulated DeFi, right? Now, as of standing right now, Ripple can't facilitate that with the XRP ledger. So it's got to go somewhere, right? So it's going to go to the area that's already meeting regulations, that already has money transmitter licenses, that's already got regulated DEXs, KYC entities on it, right? So, I mean, for me, that's a no-brainer. Like, that's a direct link. And if you guys really wanted to get into a conversation about how, you know, what has to happen with ILP and transaction packaging on the XRP ledger and all their side chains and everything, we can. Usually we get met with a lot of flack and it's too technical for most people's taste. So I try to keep it high level. But long story short, like, the banks are coming into blockchain. Like, that's going to happen, right? Bullish hit the nail on the head on timelines too, right? But the banks can come in before the actual CBDCs if they want to, okay? Technically,
I mean,
right?
that's just a question. Why would they be going state to state, spending millions of dollars on money transmitting licenses, and now acquiring a bank? It doesn't just happen overnight to get a bank. You got to apply years in advance. You got to go through an extensive background check, all this stuff. Why would they be putting up all this money to do that? While the SEC is demolishing this space as we speak.
Lucky for us, Jeremy, the host of this space, is actually a banking expert. So, Jeremy, talk about what it takes to buy a bank. To give me a little background, please.
Well,
you're still there.
usually to buy a bank, you have to have a certain amount of liquidity, and you have to get approved through a bank charter. And so, essentially, again, and I'm not I wasn't banking for many, many, many years, but I did not deal with the actual creation of the banks. But traditionally, depending on the size of what you're trying to do, you have to have $1 million in liquidity, and you just have to file for the bank charter and then get that approved, which includes a business plan, understanding the liquidity and the net worth of each of the individuals that are going to be part of the board of the bank. So again, that's the extent that I know of it.
And
So
yeah, they didn't
currently,
talk about their banking executives too.
yeah. Well, and
Wow,
currently,
their
so
advisory board is crazy.
their application for charter has been accepted right now. So that's where they're at in the process. If there are any banking experts, that should give you a timeline, right? And it's like Bullish said earlier, once the charter is there, right? So currently they use Fireblocks as custodian for all of these assets, right? But in the future, FBBT will be its own custodian of these assets. That's huge. So I don't see that happening with Ripple. I don't see anything being built on, and I shouldn't say it with that tone.
Ripple uses the Grand Cayman, just like FTX Bahamas.
Yeah, so
I
I'm
actually
looking at
agree.
the
I
Fed
completely
now.
agree with what Bullish and you guys are saying about Ripple really just funneling business back into themselves. And I'm a huge member of, I'm a believer. I hold the currency. But I do think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. You said yourself, they're building these private chains. They're moving things off the public ledger. And I completely agree. So it's not like I'm some maximalist with these high price targets. I'm wondering if they can get a portion of the global markets and use XRP as liquidity between CBDCs, could we see a gradual increase in the next bull run? And I've been here for a while. I'm sure you guys have too, probably like a decade.
Well,
what do we know about every single bull run we've been through? It's speculation driven. There's always the conversation of utility, but it's yet to come. And I really think until 2027, I know that's longer than you're anticipating, but maybe 2026, 2027, that's when I think we'll get real adoption, real KYC compliance. But it's debatable, right? I don't know.
Bullish, let me take the front end of the question, because you got the back end. But so the bull runs are going to get more equalized to the point where there probably won't even be a bull run at the end of the day, right? Like, we'll probably have a massive one, and Bullish, he knows, he's got a lot of opinions on that, right? So, but we'll probably have a massive one. But here's the thing is that, where we're at,
it'll be led by compliance.
Yeah, where we're at, like, speculation is not going to move the markets. It's going to be the institutions coming in. And those institutions, those are the banking institutions. Now, check this out. So one thing we didn't talk about was, so the MetalPay app, right? The MetalPay app basically allows Metallicus to sell the assets that Fireblocks is in custody of through their app, right? Their phone app, okay? And that is being integrated onto Proton blockchain right now. In addition to that, they have the MetalPay API, right? So what the MetalPay API does is it allows any bank out there in Web 2 world to directly access the Proton blockchain and the DEX and all of the assets, right? So what's very likely is that you'll wake up one day, I don't know, maybe you got Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or Chase, who knows, right? You'll wake up one day, you'll pull your Chase app up, and all of a sudden you'll see Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, right? Ethereum, and then a host of other assets in a crypto tab. And all of that's being facilitated with the MetalPay API. At that point, when the masses are now legally able, regulatory clarity to purchase these assets, and they're safe, quote unquote, right? We're going to start seeing more and more liquidity coming in. But in addition to that, because of the Proton loan platform, the banks are going to be able to take people's assets and do the same thing they do right now in the current world. They're going to be able to buy up, $500 million worth of Litecoin, for instance. They're going to be able to lend it out on the loan platform. They're going to be able to make interest off of it. And then they're going to be able to pay the retail people, right? Their banking customers out the yield, right? So it's no different. And right now,
but it's so that
let me ask you a question right there.
Hold on one second, if you don't mind. That sounds like you're describing what Grayscale is doing, but Grayscale is not using Proton to do that. And while I'm on this conversation with you, I'm also looking up the FEDNOW website, and Proton or Metallicus is not even listed on the FEDNOW website as a potential user.
That's great.
Which you've also mentioned in the conversation. Yeah. So Metallicus is not even listed as a provider for FEDNOW. So everything you're saying sounds good, sure, okay. But as I can point out, it's a highly speculative, and it sounds like you're just saying it because you have an invested interest.
Well, the most entertaining option is usually the most likely, right?
No,
that's an Elon Musk quote right there.
No, nobody knows. Elon is referring to Dogecoin when he makes that
Well, who do
comment.
you think?
Not
What do you
protein.
think board
And
CEO
Dogecoin is
sits on?
coming on metal. Marshall's on the
Oh,
board
people are
with me.
getting mad now. One at a time, please. One at a time.
Look, I would look up the Dogecoin Foundation and I would look up the CEO of Metallicus and I would do a cross reference.
Not on the Dogecoin. He's now branched out and created his own network that has, from what sounds like you described as 3 to 4 tokens, which I don't understand why one project would need 3 to 4 tokens.
Well, if you don't look, I'm not here to attack you or anything, right? But like, I really,
No, we're all asking
yeah. But here's the
questions. They're
thing. Here's the
questions.
thing. Like, we've been doing this for quite a while now, right? And like, it's time for some other. Here's my thing. If you have these questions, you have great questions, right? But it's up to you. Like, I'm not up here to spoon feed the information. Like, it's up to you to go figure this stuff out, just like we did.
And I want to preface this. Let me just say this. Nobody here is a financial advisor from what I understand.
100%.
None of
None
this
of
is
us are.
financial advice.
No financial.
Yeah,
Agreed,
exactly. So
yes.
this is just a conversation about speculation. We enjoy these types of discussions.
No.
And Living Legend, I like that you care so much. That's why we have these spaces. So I appreciate you coming up here. I do want to remind people we have the application. That's what this whole space is about. Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto. 30 days, absolutely free, guys. Just click on the link, give us your feedback. We're going to be choosing people from that list to get started on the beta testing. So exciting. I'm going to give Johnny Crypto the floor and we'll keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, I know we got to wrap this up, Ab, since we've been going over an hour and a half and we wanted to keep them there. But I just want to say to Bullish and you guys, look, I love and appreciate you guys coming up, giving your thoughts, giving your opinions. That's what America is all about. You know, none of us know what's going to happen, but you guys got experience in this space and you disclose that, you know, you own it and you're part of it. So there's nothing there, devious, right? You guys believe that could be the ones that's going to drive the future. And I think that's awesome that you're sharing that with this community so people are aware of it. And guys, and I mean everybody else, it's on all of us to go and do our own research and to understand what we think are the right horses we want to keep in our stable as we move forward into Web 3.0 and what these, future technologies are going to drive. But I really appreciate you guys, sharing the XPR and the MTL. The XMD didn't seem to be available. I guess that's something.
Yeah, you have to. So the XMD, you've got to buy from the DEX, from the decentralized thing. But I just want to put one thing out there for Living is that so every Tuesday, Living, if you want to bring these questions into a more intimate setting, there's about 15-20 of us that host a space. It's actually Bruce Stewart, Bitcoin Walking, and if you want to stop by, we'll go through the whole thing for however long you want to talk about it. No problem.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. No worries. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I do my own research as well. So that's why during this conversation, I decided to just take a look at the FEDNOW and who they're looking at as registered providers. And I don't see Metallicus. So that right there just kind of gets my attention. And if they were actually indeed listed, I would probably look into it further.
Mm-hmm.
But that probably
if you go
loses my
so
interest.
if you
there.
Living if you go to the metal blockchain website, right, and you're gonna see right on the front NASDAQ and JP Morgan, right? So to me, like if I'm doing research, right, I'm looking for stuff like that, right? Is JP Morgan relevant enough with the Federal Reserve, to warrant, a partnership? Like, I don't know. It's not up for me to speculate on. I'm just saying I went there the other day and I saw those partnerships and it got me curious,
Yeah, those whenever JP Morgan's involved, that's definitely something that you want to get, you want to pay attention to because we know the power they have in this, in the system. Guys, I want to ask you a question. So you talked about metal, and we got to wrap this up right after this. You talked about metal, you talked about Proton, and how you believe they could be, potentially the future rails of the system. Are there any other technologies out there? Obviously, you already kind of described why you think XRP couldn't be, which is fine. Is there anything out there outside of metal in Proton that you think could compete? Like somebody says 105 different systems out there that could do it. I'm just curious what you guys think would be, a number 2 or number 3 competitor.
Yeah, I have something to say to that, Johnny. I think you guys should look into Corium and see what that project's all about.
We did look into that one, but you can't. The last I saw, you can't invest into it other than through XDC. Am I missing something there? Is there something you can invest in?
No, you could set up the trust line on the XRP ledger, and you could buy it directly through Zum Wallet if you want to.
Oh, sorry, you said Corium. I was thinking Corium from Consensus. Never mind.
Johnny,
Right.
I would take a look what's already on the deck. So right now, XDC is on the Proton. What's in the wallet? There's Avalanche is going to come to the WebAuth wallet. Cosmos is there's going to be a ton of blockchains that are going to utilize WebAuth wallet, and then I would look at Stellar also because if you have banking, then you're going to need on-off ramps and stuff like that. So
Stellar's got a
the
lot of
thing is that when we're talking about competition, I mean, it's tough, right?
I
Like
don't really mean
we beat our head
competition.
against the wall on all of this for a long time.
Yeah. I mean more.
Yep.
Think like you're gonna have multiple layers, right? All these
Johnny,
blockchains are gonna
It's
stack
a
up.
Johnny, I would look
multipolar world.
at
So.
current layer ones. I guess ones that the community calls ISO coins, even though it's no such thing. I would look at those that they're going to be starting to look at metal. I guarantee you, I already have a prediction out there that a couple of these quote unquote ISO layer ones will be moving to metal. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm sure there's a couple. I don't really want to name them, but I'm sure you could put the pieces together. They want a walled garden. They want to be able to transact without bridges and oracles. It's a major problem. It really is. It keeps getting swept under the rug. The SEC's not letting it go. So I would look at current layer ones moving their layer ones to metal. There's already discussions behind the scenes.
Yeah, let me ask you guys one last question, then we'll wrap it up. So one of the things I've been talking about a lot is interoperability and having communication. And Quant is one of those that we've been looking at, especially with the relationships that Viridian has, through the Fed, his role in the Fed. What's your guys' thought on Quant? Do you guys think that is one that's going to be, similar like TCP/IP was to enable the internet? Do you think Quant would play a similar type role for the blockchain?
Well, Quant. So
API.
Quant. Yeah, you've got the Metal API, but Quant's trying to solve the problem of like if you're an enterprise, like just to say you're an accounting firm, you've got a certain software, and you're going to upgrade software systems, or you're going to do a merger, right? An acquisition. Like Quant basically bridges the software together, right, through an Oracle. Not only that, but it's also serving as like if an L1 goes down or part of an L1 goes down, like it's acting as the backup, But let me just put a plug out there. So like we said, we don't work for Metallicus, right? We don't work. We're not affiliated. We just love them. We love their products, right? We love their team. And I if I were you guys, I would just recommend following Marshall Hayner, the CEO, and Irina Birkin. She's the CFO, and they put crazy stuff out. In fact, if I were you, I would go look at some of Marshall Hayner's recent tweets, right, on his opinion of where this whole thing is going. I think it'll blow your mind.
Predictions.
And his predictions.
Right.
He's almost undefeated on predictions. It's an amazing guy. Really, when you get him in a space, he's really fun. And just give him a follow.
Can you plug it? How do you spell his last name, if you don't mind?
Yeah, can you tweet that to or whatever? Yeah, spell his name. We'd like to check that out.
Recent tweet about some predictions.
Thank you. That'd be perfect. Awesome. And Johnny, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but we might just wrap it up here. Let me know.
I think we've got to wrap it up because we've got some folks that need to run. But I do want to say, I want to give a heartwarm welcome to everybody who participated in this chat tonight. Thank you so much for being part of it. Guys, this is what we need. We need our community to come together because we know the SEC and there's a whole anti-crypto push there. And so what we don't want to see is us interfighting. It's great that we're all sharing ideas. This is going to help everybody grow because we know that, the game is kind of set against us. So thank you guys for coming in, sharing.
Also, one last thing, Johnny, I never understood the idea behind not hearing the contrarian to XRP, right? It's like if you're not willing to listen to the opposition, you're too emotionally attached. So I actually enjoy when people criticize it because then I can say they're either wrong or they're correct, and then I can make a reassessment. But to not listen is just ignorant,
100%, Abs. Said
well said. The other thing, we're not contrarian necessarily. We think that the XRP ledger has a home on Metal. So that's what we're
also been
there. You go.
XRP
Let's go, baby.
For years now. So.
Yeah. No, and like you said, there will be some solutions there. But again, guys, I just want to say thank you for participating. I hope you'll join our future Merlin's Twitter Spaces. We do these every 2 weeks. We love having you guys. We love having these conversations to educate the community. And then, guys, if you haven't, follow us. Get on the Merlin wait list. We're getting very, very close to launch. We're excited. We've done, we're in the beta swap, so we will be launching beta shortly to the public. And to get on the wait list, you're going to have a shot for early access to it, and then 30 days free trial to be able to bring all your crypto into one place, see it nice, easy, conveniently, and more importantly, make an exit plan. So when that next bull run comes, rather than holding the bags, you'll be counting your bags.
Hey, and real quick before you guys wrap up the space, can I just give a closing statement to my thoughts? I'll make it
Definitely.
quick. Okay,
Yeah, go
cool.
ahead.
So I'm actually a big fan of the XRP ledger. And real quickly to Living Legacy, I know you mentioned like you were kind of skeptical of Bullish and House worked for Metallicus. They absolutely do not. I was actually skeptical of that myself when I first met them because they're really well spoken and knowledgeable. So my first immediate thought was they work for them, but they
He
do not.
gave
They're
us
regular
hell, let me
people.
tell you.
Yeah, I gave these guys hell. I was being really rude and disrespectful. I was like, "Fuck you, you're lying to me." Oops, sorry for the swear word. But no, these guys, they're really good guys, and they're not affiliated with Metallicus. But on to my closing point. Basically, you guys were airdropped on May 15th an option token called X Core. I think a lot of people are going to probably end up selling that, which I think is going to be a huge mistake. This is I believe it's going to be the governance network for Corium/Tendermint. So if Corium's integrated with the banks and the governments, they're going to need a governance network that's able to basically vote on the super validators and the validators that ultimately will end up being companies and enterprises like Palantir, Microsoft, and other central banks. You could call this Cobalt, which was introduced back in 2016 by Ethan McBro, Stefan Thomas, and Evan Schwartz. But I think that's what it is. It's a very contrarian view. There's no doubt about that. But it has a completely different supply to Corium. And again, you guys as XRP holders were airdropped it for free. All you guys had to do was set up a trust line. So there's that little, riddle that when a Titanic sinks, what is untethered will eventually rise. And so I think the key here is to look for the hidden gem assets on the XRP ledger that are untethered. Right. So that's my only thoughts. And yeah, check out X Core. You guys were airdropped it for free on May 15th. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys. I want to say thank you to Bullish. Thank you to, I think it's Hodl and Thrive. And thank you to the other guy. He's out of our chat now. But this was a great discussion tonight. And I hope you guys will join us again in 2 weeks. For anybody who hasn't checked out our application, it's the link tweet at the top. 30 days absolutely free. With that being said, have a great weekend. See you on
Abs,
Monday.
real quick, can I just add something real quick? So for Bullish and Alluvium, I appreciate you guys coming in. You weren't originally part of our speaker guest, but you created a fantastic space for everybody and fantastic discussion. So if you could just let everybody know where to find you, whether it's on Twitter or YouTube, so people can be a part of your communities as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, at Momentum Bullish is my Twitter. I just started a small little YouTube channel, just some light, information here and there that's posted on my wall on my Twitter. And if you want to access Metallicus and all that, I mean, Metallicus.com. Then they have their Metal Pay Exchange. I don't want to act like I'm shilling. You guys know the names. You can easily find it with a search. So I'll leave it there because I don't want to pump my bags with my 3,000 followers.
No, absolutely. We do appreciate it. The other reason why I was asking is because these will all eventually be able to be listened to on a podcast. So wherever you get your podcast, you'll eventually be able to listen to these there. If you want to further go back and listen to some of them, they'll also be available on the Merlin YouTube. Once we get that specifically set up, we're trying to make a environment where people can come and have great discussion about what's going on in the cryptocurrency space. And again, this is the official Twitter Spaces for Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto. I want to give a special shout out to Jenna. I just need to pull up where all of her places are. You can check her out on YouTube. I think I actually closed the document that I had up with that. So you can follow Jenna here on Twitter. You can check her out on YouTube at Jenna X Media. I remembered it, Jenna X Media. And you can definitely follow Abs. He hosts the Good Morning Crypto Show with his sidekick, Johnny Crypto. They're every morning, Monday through Friday at 11 Eastern. It's my channel, and I never know when it's actually on. You can check that out on the 3T Warrior Academy channel. Again, my name is Jeremy Quintanilla. I do want to add one last disclaimer. As we create more and more spaces where more and more opinions are becoming prevalent, which we are grateful for and proud of, the views and opinions expressed during Merlin Spaces are those of the speakers and do not reflect the views, positions of any entities they represent, including the 3T Warrior Academy. And Jenna, I know you have your hand up. Did you want to add something before I close this out?
Just that I loved Bullish Momentum's new name for Abs, Mr. Good Morning America. I thought that was too cute whenever he greeted him.
Oh,
So
because I
Abs
keep
Lab,
it
that's
quick.
his
I
new
didn't know what
name.
to say.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you guys, and thank you for whoever came up. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jenny. You can also see Jenna quite often along with the Node Defender on the Good Morning Crypto Show on the 3T Warrior Academy. And again, this is the official spaces for Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto. And we will see everybody in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Merlin Crypto Market Update located on the X app. I'm Abs, your host and Senior Engagement Officer at Merlin, and we hope you enjoyed this episode from our Merlin X Spaces. Remember, you can catch us live every other Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the X app at Get Merlin Crypto. If you want to take your crypto tracking to the next level, don't miss out on our free 30-day trial at merlincrypto.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.